We're going to go to math.com, click on calculus. Let's go down to limits at infinity, and we are making sure there's not a 2-3 in there. Okay, let's look at this one here. Looking at this, what do we got? We got evaluate the limit. We got the limit as x approaches infinity of 3x over the square root of 49x squared minus 6x minus 12. So how do we deal with these radicals? Well, it helps to know something about the properties of limits. So that kind of helps out a little bit. All right, so let's write this down. Okay, I got that written down. Let's go down here and check out this cool looking graph down here. What is going on? Well, I'll just tell you right now, this line is supposed to, there's a vertical asymptote in here. This line is not supposed to be there. Okay, so just because when you plug 0 in, look what you get. You get 0 over, but then you get the square root of negative 12 down here in the denominator. And you can't have a negative number under the radical, right? It's not in the domain. Anyway, but what we're really concerned about is what's happening to our y value as x gets larger and larger as we go out towards infinity. All right, so let's go over to the whiteboard and start writing some stuff down. We actually got quite a bit to write down here. We got the limit as x approaches infinity of 3x over the square root of 49x squared minus 6x minus 12. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to well, I'll just tell you, we're going to end up, we want to take this radical right here and actually take the radical of the whole thing. So how we're going to do that, it's actually pretty simple. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to square the numerator, and we'll just write this stuff right over here. Okay, because since we've got quite a bit to write down, I don't really want to skip any steps here. We're going to square this. All right, in other words, 3x quantity squared. And the reason we're doing that is so we can take then the square root of it, and what happens is we just end up getting back 3x. Okay, because the square root of a square here, just get back 3x. But then remember, we have the radical down here in the denominator. Right, so we have 49x squared minus 6x. So this is like a trick, right? There's a few tricks you got to know in math. And then what we can do is take this, since we have the top square rooted, the bottom square rooted, then we can actually just take the whole thing and square root it, right? So we're going to write the limit as x approaches infinity, and now instead we'll just square root the whole thing. So we have 3x quantity squared over 49x squared minus 6x minus 12. All right. Now, what you can think of is, you could think of this as this: the limit as x approaches infinity of f composed of g of x. Okay, where g of x is actually this inside piece right here, 3x quantity squared over 49x squared minus 6x minus 12. So this is like your g of x right here. And actually the way to do this limit would be to first take the limit as x approaches infinity of g of x, And then once we get this answer, we'll call it k. Then what you can do is you can just evaluate f of k. And guess what? That's what this is going to equal over here. All right. Now I'm going to actually bring up a section that we worked earlier, and that was under evaluating limits analytically, so you can actually see this. I believe it was 18 maybe. Okay, and let's click it again. All right, so when we found the limit of as x approaches 5 of g composed of h of x, let me hit the help here so you can see what's going on. What we did first was we took the limit of h of x. Okay, it says first we find the limit of h of x, and then once we got that number, we just simply plugged it into g, and bam, that's what our answer was. Okay, so properties of limits. All right, let's go back. Actually, let's go back to here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be taking the limit of this right here. Okay, so let's do that. You could also think of it this way, is taking the radical and actually doing this. We could think of it this way also. The limit as x approaches infinity of, now I'm going to go ahead and write 9x squared. I'm going to go ahead and square that. Okay, over 49x squared minus 6x minus 12. All right, now remember, this is all over the radical here. I could have done a little better job, I guess, writing that. So this is what we want to evaluate now as x goes to infinity. Well, you notice the numerator has an x squared leading term, and the bottom down here leading term 49x squared. Well, guess what? These are both the same. Remember what I told you in an earlier problem. If these are both the same, the powers are both the same, then all we got to do is look at their coefficients. And so what do we end up with? We end up with taking the square root of 9 over 49. 9 over 49. So remember, that's what this was right here, okay? And so now the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 49 is 7. It's that simple. Now let me just go back to this piece over here. So f, actually, in this particular one, f of x would be considered the square root of x, okay? The square root of x, where when we end up taking k and plugging it in, f of k is equal to the square root of k, and k in this particular part would be this piece right here. Okay, see that? That would be this piece right here. Okay, so anyway, there it is. Hopefully you could read that. Let's, so what was the answer again? 3/7. Okay, sounds good. Let's go up here and hope that it's 3/7, and it is. All right. Anyway, okay, so come on by, practice that, and I'll see you there maybe.